So it's kind of crazy to think that a year ago we were closing up our doors and going strictly to curbside service only at our store and trying to figure out how to operate in uncharted territory in scary times of the unknown for customer safety, our own safety, and then things of the how to even get product from wholesalers, like Lysol was hard to get, and that's something, Lysol and hand sanitizer, that we absolutely needed to keep everyone safe, and it was very difficult for us to get any of that kind of stuff. So I'm glad that was a year ago.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Thank you for joining me on this special broadcast on KZ100 and our Alpha Media Facebook station, Facebook pages, 93.5 The Hawk and Clear 101. I'm Eric Johnson, and who you've heard from was Megan Nuns, co-owner of Weaver Pharmacy in Geneva, and she is one of just many businesses that are still feeling the effects 1 year later. Just think about it. In 1 year, COVID-19 has eliminated concerts, no ball games, businesses struggling to even survive, time lost with family. I mean, the list goes on and on. And today we're going to talk about that. It is COVID-19 and its impact in rural Nebraska. Once again, we want to thank our sponsors of this broadcast. They include Exeter Milligan Public Schools, Urgent Care and Family Medicine of York, Bruning Grocery, Fillmore County Medical Center in Geneva, and Weaver Pharmacy in Geneva. Joining me on the panel discussion today is Dr. Scott Vonderfecht of Urgent Care and Family Medicine of York, Paul Sheffield, Superintendent of Exeter Milligan Public Schools, and from Bruning Grocery, small business owner Paul Philippi. Gentlemen, welcome to the broadcast.
Good morning.
Good morning. Morning, Eric.
I know this is good morning, everyone. This has been a tough year to say the least, and I bet we all can agree 20 minutes discussion won't even touch the surface about what we've experienced with COVID-19 here in our way of life. But we're going to touch base and just kind of get the feel of how it hit us, in rural Nebraska. And we're going to begin with you, Doctor. Speaking of the years past, let's start at the beginning. Your initial reaction to hearing about COVID-19 in the news and coming up here, in the state?
Yeah, a lot of people initially felt this is going to be no worse than the typical influenza we have. I was fairly concerned about it and didn't realize what a huge impact it would have on our country until we got further into it. But it's been a huge deal. You look back with comparing it to the Spanish flu, 50 million people died from that back in the 1900s. And I think 675,000 people died from that as well. You look at the COVID, I think we've had about 2.8 million people in the world die from it, and about 500,000 people in the United States. So it's been a huge impact. I was always concerned it was going to be much bigger than what people thought, and it actually did turn out to be that way. So it's been a big change in the way of life for a lot of people for a while. So.
And of course, listening audience tuning in, if you have any questions for the doctor, for Superintendent Paul Sheffield, or for Paula Philippi as well, leave a comment on the Facebook page and on our YouTube channel at My Central Nebraska. We're live streaming on both platforms, and we'd love to hear from you. Paul from Exeter Milligan, let's take the same question with you. What was your initial reaction to hearing about the COVID-19 virus?
Honestly, our first initial action is like, what the heck is this? And how is this going to affect small town Nebraska when this is a worldwide thing? But then as it progressed, we started looking at it thinking, we might have to be thinking about this. And then when everybody was starting to cut out for school and stuff like that, our intent was to go as long as we could. And we had been planning for it. So probably since about end of February. We do a PD Friday, so every Friday afternoon we dismiss school at 2:20, and then we have an hour to hour and 20 minutes of professional development time. And so what we did is we just started saying, hey, we might want to plan on something in case we have to do something different. And so we started thinking maybe we'd have to go remote learning. Never in a million years did we think we'd have to worry about that. It really hit home when the boys state basketball tournament was parents only. And that's when it really hit to say, wow, this is going to be real and this is going to be different. So never thought anything like that would affect us here in small town Nebraska, but it did.
Now, I'm glad you brought up the transition for the students and the learning from distant learning, I guess, excuse me. How did that go for you guys in the school system? And was that ever a planned what if scenario if something catastrophic happens?
For us, I think it was easier than maybe for some other schools because you're probably aware that, we've been one-to-one with our devices. Students 7 through 12 have had their laptops. Going on 10 years now. In elementary, each student K6 has their own iPad. So our teachers are used to utilizing the technology within the classroom. I had been tossing around I originally from Southwest Minnesota, and Minnesota had a pretty rough winter a couple years ago and still have some friends up there. And they had actually gone to where they could allow up to 5 e-learning days to be used for snow days. So I was thinking, well, maybe that's something we could do here. And maybe we could utilize our e-learning here in case we wanted for snow days. And so we have been working on that and pushing our teachers to make sure they have that presence online using our learning management system as Canvas. And so I think we were pretty prepared to go that way. But then once you start doing it, you run into some hiccups along the way. But I think we were probably a little bit better prepared than maybe some other schools.
Now, I see we got a question from our comments here from Riley. How difficult has it been to balance public safety with the students and parents' desire to play sports? Good question. Paul, talk about that.
Yeah, we developed what we called it a reopening committee, and so we had some teachers on there. We had our school nurse. Just basically, what are some things that we can do to make sure we're meeting the safety of the kids, but yet meeting the needs of the students and parents and community members? And that committee has been very helpful in helping everybody see all aspects. Local superintendents, we met weekly during the summer and the spring just to see what other people are doing, because what they're doing in Fran, what they're doing in Fillmore Central, they're going to be the same thing. So why recreate the wheel? And so we relied on each other and just taking into account, had a good working relationship with Public Health Solutions. So in our weekly meetings with superintendents, Public Health Solutions, Kim was involved in that, and then Laura McDougall from Four Corners. So we had that line of communication with those medical professionals, which really helped us dealing with our plans. And when we first started out, I was one of those that said, well, maybe we should just go masks, highly recommended, not require them. And it was our committee that said, no, with the way things are going, we need to make masks required from the onset. And I think that's been a huge key for us. Is from day one, we required masks. And I think that's been the best thing that we could do to help mitigate what has happened. I'm going to knock on wood. We have not had to dismiss school because of COVID. We've had a few cases here and there, but it's not been because of what's happened at school. It's not because of what's happened at activities. It's when they've been out and about in the community spread.
Okay, looks like we got a question possibly for Scott here. It's from Terry off of Facebook. Scott, here's one for you. Do you think that we will be having to deal with different strains of COVID as years go by?
Yeah, I think we probably will. I think right now, the viruses typically mutate through time to help them propagate and stay ahead of us, so to speak. As of right now, I think the vaccine is hitting the different strains out there. Time will tell if the vaccine is going to cover the strains as they mutate over time. And we'll also know in the next year if this vaccine that we've done will need a booster in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. We aren't going to know that till we get further into it. Right now, it seems like it's giving good immunity, and it's going well that way. So
awesome. Well, And we'll touch base a little bit more about vaccinations later on with Dr. Vonderfecht here. But let's go down to Paul from Bruning Grocery. Paul, talk to us, a small business owner like yourself, going through this difficult time last year and still going through it. Your initial reaction so far?
Well, initially, I think, you kind of had this feeling that you'll see things like this hit large metro areas. You'll see runs on stores and places like that. You don't ever feel it out here. You may feel a little bit of a crunch with your product and stuff like that. And I think I was probably in the boat with most people when I sat there and said, okay, we'll see this for a little bit and then we'll just get through it. And it might cause a few hiccups as we kind of got along. And I know Paul talked about the boys state basketball. The moment it hit me was the canceling the NCAA tournament last year. Was like, holy cow, I need to be prepared because this is much bigger than I thought. And you started seeing the runs in the bigger cities first, and you just kind of had this feeling that this wasn't going away. And you better be prepared. And, we did our best. I felt like we had a good relationship with our warehouse who really helped us out. We tried to implement rules and regulations as we went along, but quite frankly, we were making it up as we went, just trying to do what we could to, one, take care of our customers, two, our employees, and three, just make sure everybody had enough to get through a day-to-day basis, which at times it was honestly scary to think about that, man, I may not get my milk this truck. I know I'm not getting toilet paper. And so it was a weird time, and there was a lot of fear, and you could see it on the customers' faces, and you're just doing your best to mitigate that fear, to let them know that you are going to be there. You're going to do what you can. You're not closing your doors. You're not, running away from this, and they're going to have something to get through. But it's hard to think that it's already been a year. I suppose we've made some adjustments along the way, but I don't know if there's just a new normal now or what, but it's been wild.
Well, let me ask you this, Paul. Hypothetically, if this would have continued on without any type of, light at the end of the tunnel, would you have been able to survive business-wise?
Yeah, we were in the lucky position. It was, out of so many businesses out there, in a lot of ways, it was good for us. Our business went up. People shopped more locally. There was heavy issues with certain products at times. We're still seeing that same problem where it's just that trickle down effect of things just being tight or prices being wacky. But we would have been there and would have been open. I'd tell you that first 3 or 4 months, the hours we were putting in, the stress levels were nuts. I was done with COVID after 3 months. I was ready to be done with that stuff. But we would have made it through. We did make it through. But like I said, we all adjust. We all make changes, and we learn to deal with it.
Paul, you got a question here from Riley again. Do you find that people are willing to follow protocols in public buying? Is online buying more prevalent, or how is there a way we can support local businesses during a time like this?
Yeah, actually, it was, we never actually mandated any masks in our store. People were really good about doing it. We never had to force anybody. We really didn't want to get into being security guards at the door. And we put up our signs. We brought out some extra sanitizer. We put up signs that we didn't want too many people in the store, and we did things like that. And everybody was extremely willing to follow along. We never had one issue with anybody not following any protocols. Everybody was very good about that. As far as like online, we did not, that's for a small store to get into that. There were options. We did not get into any online ordering. I know market wise, it has bloomed. Places, Hy-Vee, Walmart, they're doing just astronomical amounts now. As we get towards the end of this, it's really starting to go down. But I have known other small stores that got into it, and they had huge spikes in it, and now it's kind of going away again. And as far as supporting small business, it's just as simple as reaching out to them. If they're open, go visit, see what you can buy, see what you can do for them. If they're not open, call and see if you can pick something up, see if you can get something ordered. It's just reaching out and seeing what you can do.
Now, I did talk with Megan Nuns from Weaver Pharmacy about this same issue, about how COVID affected their business during the pandemic and going forward. And this is what she had to say.
most definitely, we would say that COVID has changed the way we think about helping customers. We were always very good about, um, helping. What can we help you with? Now we are more. COVID has taught us to anticipate a lot more what a customer might need. And try to anticipate your needs. And, once we see you come to the door, if we've got your prescription ready, we're already trying to grab it so you're in and out a lot quicker. And that's something that COVID just kind of made us focus on a lot more because some people were not comfortable being inside the store for long periods of time. So we try to adjust to everyone's needs, and in time that just kind of, that's how we're operating now. And so that's really the only, I would say COVID has benefited our business in terms of, I know our community support for us was fantastic. We had such great community support because we are in a smaller community, and we can't say how much that means to all of us, because we've seen a lot of pharmacies and other stores in bigger communities struggle with not having enough support, and they had to close. And we were lucky enough that the community kind of rallied behind not only our store but all of the Main Street stores. Everyone kind of banded together, and we thought that was really, really neat to see.
Doctor, I want to reach out to you on this next question. So let's say hypothetically, with no end in sight, as we continued on throughout that year, would the clinics and hospitals, like your practices as well, would they have been able to survive the influx of infectious patients?
It was extremely taxing on clinics, small hospitals, especially even the large hospitals where the extremely sick patients ended up, on ventilators and stuff. It has been pretty tough. It was a bad year for everybody, and it was pretty hard on all the healthcare providers. My daughter's an ICU nurse in Lincoln at Bryan, and she dealt with a lot of it, and it was really tough. And thank God for the marvels of modern medicine. We've made some differences that saved a lot of people's lives, despite it being such a horrible disease. But if this had been happened in the early 1900s, it'd been like the Spanish flu. It'd been a total disaster in regards to taking care of people, and he'd been just sitting there watching people die, basically. So which they did already, as it was a lot of times with it, but we saved a lot of lives with the treatments we did have now. So it was really tough on a lot of people, and the burnout was extremely high for providers and nursing staff, etc. So
we're talking with Dr. Vonderfeck from Urgent Care and Family Medicine of York, at Paul Sheffield, Superintendent of Exeter Milligan Public Schools, and Paula Philippi with Burning Grocery here on the COVID-19 and its impact in rural Nebraska special broadcast. And Paul Sheffield, I want to reach out to you on this next question. So with everything going on and with the kids getting back to school, you were talking about how we needed to get back to a sense of normalcy early on. Was the damage already done for the kids and their psyche, being distant learning, away from friends, away from the school setting?
I don't want to say there was damage done, but kids were ready to get back to school. They were ready to be back with their friends. The fall and the beginning of the school year is always a fun time for us that are in education. It's like a little kid at Christmas. But having gone remote learning, I think kids realize that, we always talk about not wanting to go to school because, I got to get up and go to school, but they were ready. Our teachers were ready. Everyone was ready to get back into school and back into the normal groove, and so, but we tried to communicate all through the summer with our parents, with our students. You were involved in some of that, Eric, probably tired of, oh, geez, another email from Sheffield. What are we going to do? But we tried to communicate as much as we could with our Facebook page, website, email about what our plan is for getting back into the groove. The kids have been great. The school board has been 100% supportive of what we wanted to do. The kids have been great. The parents have been great. It's April 2nd. Who would have thought all of a sudden, boom, we're going April 2nd. And, kids were ready. Now it's spring. Now they're thinking, oh, the weather's getting nice. It's time to get ready for summer. But I think that transition has been great for our kids. Were just ready. They're ready to get back with their friends and ready to get back into the school.
Now, let me ask you this quick question here as we kind of wind down, Mr. Sheffield. So, has the masks been received positively, and has the vaccines been received positively in the school district?
I think our saving grace has been masks have been mandated from day one. And the way we sold it said first, it's to protect everybody else. And also too, the first day we had school, we told kids, if you want to have a normal school year, if you want to have activities, we have to do stuff to help make sure we can do that. And the first thing that we can do is wear a mask, wash our hands, and social distance. If we can continue with those three things, then we're going to be able to have volleyball games, football games, basketball games, a track season, prom. There's those things that we didn't have track, we didn't have prom. Graduation, we kind of snuck in out on the football field because we only had 10 kids. And if we wanted to still be able to do those, these are the things we have to do. And that's how we presented it to the kids. And they were very receptive of it. The parents have been receptive. We did talk about, tomorrow, most of our employees will get their second COVID shot tomorrow at at the clinic in Geneva. And we talked about, maybe once we're fully vaccinated, maybe we shouldn't go to masks recommended. Our teachers and our committee basically said, you know what, we've made it this far. So by the time we're fully vaccinated, it'll be the end of April. With the quarantine rules still in effect, so if somebody tests positive and you didn't have a mask, then you're gonna have to quarantine. So that there was a chance that somebody could have missed prom, graduation, track meets. We said, you know what, let's just stay with it. So hopefully when we come back next fall, we don't have to worry about some of these things. Yeah, we also made the comment by wearing masks, we haven't seen all the other sicknesses, and maybe Dr. Scott can attest to this, is we haven't seen the colds, the other flu, the snotty noses, the kids sick because of other things. It's all of a sudden we're like, wow, we didn't see any of that this year. And is that because maybe we're wearing masks and being more vigilant in washing hands and some of that hygiene stuff? And there's been some other things that have come out of this to where things that we probably wouldn't have done but we did them just because of COVID. Moving on, we'll say, hey, you know what, we'll continue some of those things. So it's been good for us just to look at what we do and saying, are we doing this just because we always do it? Or is it something that's going to be best for kids down the line? So,
well, Scott, Paul Sheffield makes a good point. Follow-up question to that. With the masks, do you see it being effective, and do you see it going forward? And I guess the second question is, same with the vaccines. Do you feel like the vaccines have been effective, or do we need to do this every year as a booster of sorts?
Yeah, I think the vaccine's been effective. And the masks are making a huge difference. Usually we're inundated January, February with influenza, and I think this flu season we've seen 3 or 4 cases at urgent care, which is unheard of. I figured by now I would have had the coronavirus. As many people as I saw with it, wore my mask and took all the PPE precautions and never got it. So it makes a huge difference. I always encourage the flu shot for everybody. I usually wait till I start hearing about it in the cities, and then it's like, I'll get my flu shot. I haven't got my flu shot yet, which is not a good thing, but I haven't done it yet, but I haven't seen any flu this year. It's been unreal. So the masks do make a difference. I think as people get vaccinated, if I'm seeing a patient in my office who's vaccinated and I'm vaccinated, I will take my mask off with them because we've both been vaccinated. And the CDC is recommending, small groups can get together if they've been vaccinated because you should be protected. So, and I think the vaccine program, for the most part, people are very receptive to it and doing it. There's always a few conspiracy theorists out there that are scared that we're going to get something we don't want in our bodies with this, but it's safe, it's effective. I encourage the people with the chronic health conditions like your diabetics, your morbidly obese, old people with COPD, lung disease, etc., chronic health issues, to get the 2-series shot, because that gives you about 95% effective protection against the virus. The younger, healthy population, I encourage them to at least get the Johnson & Johnson single dose injection, because young people that are healthy, usually not going to be a problem for them. You will see a few people that are young that do get very sick and possibly succumb to the disease as well, but it's not that common. So,
and I hope that answers your question, Riley. And as we wind down here, Paul from Bruning Grocery, learning experience going forward. How do you kind of put this into the what if scenario for the future?
Man, I really hope we don't have to go through this ever again. But yeah, I mean, anytime you go through something, just, I mean, even smaller than this, you're going to come away with learning experiences with it. You know, yeah, you can try and maybe get on the extreme end and have all kinds of product, you know, just pallets of toilet paper in the back and stuff like that. I don't have room for that anyways. I'm probably not going to do that, but I can tell you, you know, it just makes you more receptive, more understanding of what can happen. There's obviously little steps to take when you start seeing things like that. Man, if nothing else, I hope I learned something from all this. So,
and I hope we all did too. It's each one of you in your fields. Can't thank you guys enough for what you do on a daily basis, regardless of the fact. But it's hit all of our lives, and it's probably never going to be out of our lives here in the immediate future. And like I said, we can go forever and a day talking about this, but I think we've touched on some very key topics today. And gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me and talking about this issue.
Thanks for having me, Eric.
Thanks for the opportunity, Eric.
And of course, I want to thank our sponsors, Exeter Milligan Public Schools, Urgent Care, Family Medicine in York, Bruning Grocery in Bruning, Fillmore County Medical Center, and Weaver Pharmacy in Geneva. For my panel, I'm Eric Johnson saying so long for now.
yeah.